Chelsea spent over £200 million this summer. On paper, that sounds like ambition. But when you look closer, the planning feels chaotic. Key positions left uncovered, questionable departures, and new signings that don't really solve the real gaps. Which brings us to the real problem. Why Enzo Maresca is carrying a blame that might not be his. Yes, there are questionable substitutions and a rigid system. But the bigger story runs deeper. The board pitched for high-profile moves but overlooked timing and balance. They sold Nicholas Jackson right after Delap's injury, leaving only him and Joao Pedro as strikers for an entire season. What could have been healthy competition turned into a repeat of last year's problem, one injury away from total overload. Maresca may be inexperienced, but he's the one facing cameras every week, the public face of a crisis shaped above his head. Liam Delap looked like the striker Chelsea had been missing. Raw talent, physical presence, and a profile that felt perfectly into what Maresca wanted from his number 9. Not necessarily more polished than Nicholas Jackson, but a player who felt more natural for the role. The problem came when Delap got injured before Jackson was sold. What should have been a healthy rotation of 3 forwards turned into a thin setup that risks overloading Joao Pedro. And then came Levi Colwill's ACL injury. Truth is, many inside the club didn't fully realize his importance until he was gone. Colwill had been a key left-footed option in build-up, and replacing him was urgent. The board had time to act, but chose not to, leaving Tosin and others to improvise. When you lose that kind of balance, you're forced to change the way the whole team plays in a very short time. If the adaptation doesn't click quickly, and so far it hasn't, the cost can be an entire season slipping away. And that's only the start, because the injury crisis didn't stop there. Delap and Colwill are the headlines, but they're not alone. Romeo Lavia has been sidelined for months with recurring muscle problems. Benoit Badiashile picked up another injury just when he was needed most, and Dario Asugo went under the knife. At one point, Chelsea had an entire midfield and defensive block unavailable. For Maresca, that means no stability in his selections. Lineups change every week, chemistry never builds, and tactical patterns collapse before they even take shape. Opponents know they're facing a patched-up Chelsea and exploit the lack of rhythm. Fans see the disorganization on the pitch and blame the coach, but the truth is that no system can flourish without repetition. Every game becomes damage control, and it's impossible to judge Maresca's long-term work when half of the names he planned around are watching from the stands. Injuries are part of football, but when they cluster in the same areas, they distort reality. But Chelsea's real mistakes weren't just medical, they came in the transfer market. The sale of Noni Madueke for £50 million, followed by the signing of Jamie Bino Gittens for £40 million, is the perfect example of Chelsea's flawed logic. On the balance sheet, it makes sense. Younger player, lower wage, long-term upside. But in practice, it weakened the squad. Madueke was only 23, had Premier League minutes under his belt, and showed flashes of reliability in a team that desperately needed stability.
Madueke dropped his shoulder.
Gittens may become a star, but right now he's learning the league, the intensity, and the expectations of a massive club. What Chelsea needed was contribution today, not in 2 years. These decisions reveal a mindset where players are treated as assets first, footballers second. Maresca can't explain why a winger who knew the league was swapped for one who doesn't. That was the board's call. The result is that Chelsea's right side has one functioning partnership in Palmer and Gusto, but depth elsewhere feels like gambling. And when you add the striker situation, the flaws become even clearer. Delap's injury already made Jackson's sale a dangerous move, but Chelsea went ahead with it anyway. Joao Pedro, while talented,
as this corner goes into the center, and there is Joao Pedro! He continues to dazzle for the Blues, with Joao Pedro scoring as Chelsea have the lead.
Is now asked to carry more weight than planned, turning a sensible rotation into a survival mission. Then there's Joao Hato. At Ajax, he occasionally played left back, but he was recruited as a center defender. Instead of easing him into the role, Maresca is forced to use him as Cucurella's relief simply because there are no alternatives. That doesn't help Hato develop, it just plugs holes. These decisions highlight the lack of alignment between the club's recruitment and its real needs. The irony is that none of the players involved are bad signings on their own. Jackson can produce 20 goal contributions this season. Joao Pedro has quality, and Hato is a top prospect. But when planning ignores timing and balance, the collective suffers. Chelsea didn't just weaken depth, they compromised flexibility across the pitch. And without leaders to hold it together, the cracks widen even faster. Chelsea's squad has an average age of 24, and that youth is exciting but unstable. The exits of Thiago Silva and Cesar Azpilicueta removed 2 captains who understood how to manage pressure. Today, the armband is shared between Enzo Fernandez and Reece James. Enzo is a brilliant midfielder, but not the type of commanding captain this squad needs. He leads by example with the ball, not with authority in crisis. Reece James, on the other hand, shows glimpses of leadership. He speaks to referees, directs teammates, and tries to manage the flow of matches, but he's only 25, still learning the nuances of responsibility. And in decisive moments, his inexperience shows. Against Brentford or Man United, you could feel the absence of a voice strong enough to reset the team. Leadership isn't just about wearing the armband, it's about commanding respect instantly when chaos arrives. Right now, Chelsea doesn't have that presence, and the squad looks exposed. And when nobody controls emotions, discipline quickly collapses.
It's on to Brian Mbeumo here into the penalty area. It goes down. Oh, Robert Sanchez is in major trouble. Brian Mbeumo is clean through. He's got no choice. And Robert Sanchez...
The signs are everywhere. Robert Sanchez flying into Mbeumo with a reckless challenge after just 5 minutes. The last-minute equalizer conceded against Brentford, where a simple throw-in turned into a goal because nobody took responsibility. The collapse at Old Trafford, where United scored only 7 minutes after Sanchez's red card. These are not one-off mistakes, they form a pattern, a team unable to control itself under pressure. Without senior leaders to calm the group, Chelsea repeatedly loses focus in decisive situations. Maresca does deserve criticism for his substitutions, but even the best tactical changes cannot replace experience on the pitch. Inexperienced squads panic when plans are disrupted, and that's exactly what happens here. The numbers prove it. Over 100 yellow cards last season, more than any other Premier League side. That isn't coincidence, it's immaturity. Until someone steps up to impose calm, Chelsea will keep dropping points from self-inflicted wounds. And tactically, the way the team is built makes those weaknesses even sharper. Chelsea's build-up has become alarmingly predictable. Almost every move runs through Malo Gusto and Cole Palmer on the right, leaving the left wing underdeveloped. Players like Gittens, Pedro Neto, or even Garnacho when given minutes all look less effective because the system doesn't give them automatic connections. It's not a question of quality, it's repetition and structure. Opponents already know how to disrupt Chelsea. Force them to the left, where moves break down and position slows. For a coach influenced by Guardiola, Maresca's lack of variety is striking. The imbalance doesn't just limit attacking options, it makes defending transitions harder because the team is tilted. Fans can see it clearly. One side looks alive, the other feels abandoned. A system that depends too heavily on two players is fragile, especially when one of them, Palmer, struggles with fitness. This tactical rigidity magnifies every other flaw. And when Maresca tries to adjust mid-game, the expectations crash even harder. It isn't just about poor changes, it's also about inflated expectations.
Colwill's pass this time. Cole Palmer exploiting that space again. Oh, what a trick from Palmer! Superb! The finish is almost a carbon copy!
Maresca's tactical win in the Club World Cup final raised the bar, making fans believe Chelsea had found a coach ready for elite-level management. But that result might have masked the reality. His system, while innovative, is still fragile when studied closely. Rivals prepare specifically to neutralize Chelsea's right-sided build-up, and when they succeed, the game plan collapses. That's when great managers show adaptability, the ability to reshape a match in real time. Maresca hasn't shown that yet. His substitutions often destabilize the side further, and the narrative becomes predictable. They studied us. But that's football at the highest level. Everyone studies you. The difference is whether you can react quickly, improvise, and take control back. Until Maresca proves he can do that, his reputation will keep taking hits, no matter how much of the deeper fault lies with the board. And that's the real story. He may not be guilty, but he will take the blame. Now, it's your turn. Where do you think the real blame lies? Is Maresca failing to adapt, or is the board sabotaging him with poor planning? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because Chelsea aren't in full crisis yet. Recent titles and results gave Maresca some breathing room, but how long can that keep you alive in the toughest league in the world? Blame will always find a face, and right now, that face is Enzo Maresca. But the truth is that Chelsea's crisis is bigger than one coach. It's a test of planning, patience, and identity. Until the club solves those foundations, every manager will look guilty. Sometimes, the harshest defeat isn't on the pitch, it's in the boardroom.